If you ever took a family road trip across America in the 1950s, 60s, or 70s, there was one sight that told you everything was going to be all right. A bright orange roof rising up beside the highway with a little blue cupola on top. It meant a clean bathroom. It meant a hot, familiar meal. It meant 28 flavors of ice cream for the children in the back seat. That orange roof belonged to Howard Johnson's, and at its peak, there were more of them across America than there were McDonald's. It was the largest restaurant chain in the entire country, the host of the highways, a true American institution. And then, one by one, the orange roofs went dark. In 2022, the very last Howard Johnson's restaurant quietly closed its doors in a small town in upstate New York, ending nearly 100 years of history. This is the story of the rise and fall of Howard Johnson's. And by the end, I will show you the single decision, a decision to save money that slowly poisoned the very thing that made it great. Our story begins in 1925, in the neighborhood of Wollaston, in Quincy, Massachusetts. A young man named Howard Deering Johnson, a grade school dropout who was deep in debt from his late father's business, borrowed $2,000 and bought a small, struggling corner drugstore. It was not much to look at, but Johnson soon noticed something. The busiest part of his whole store was not the medicine counter. It was the little soda fountain, where people came for ice cream. So Johnson did something that would change his life. He decided the ice cream everyone was buying simply was not good enough. He reworked the recipe, using more butterfat and only natural ingredients, and he churned it fresh. The result was a richer, creamier ice cream than anything else in town. And then he expanded the idea, experimenting until he had created what would become his lifelong trademark: 28 flavors of ice cream. Not just vanilla and chocolate, but butter pecan, and butterscotch, and peanut brittle, and fudge ripple. Word spread, and people came from all around just to taste. In 1929, using the profits from that ice cream, Johnson opened his first full restaurant in Quincy. He served honest New England comfort food: roast turkey, chicken pot pie, baked beans, macaroni and cheese, and of course, those 28 flavors. He also took a humble local dish, the fried clam, searched out the best clams in New England, and turned it into a signature that people would drive miles for. The restaurant was an instant hit, and Howard Johnson began to dream much bigger. Now, plenty of people can run one good restaurant. What made Howard Johnson extraordinary was what he did next, and he did three brilliant things. The first was an absolute obsession with quality and consistency. Johnson believed that a traveler, far from home, wanted one thing above all else: to know exactly what they were going to get. So he built a company where a meal in one Howard Johnson's tasted precisely the same as a meal in another, 300 miles away. He wrote a detailed playbook for every single part of the operation, from the recipes to the uniforms. He built his own factories to make the ice cream and the food, so the standard never slipped. He was so strict that there is a true story of Johnson having an employee arrested for serving food past its expiration date. That is how seriously he took the promise on the sign. The second brilliant thing was franchising. Today we take the idea for granted, but in the 1930s it was revolutionary. Johnson did not have the money to build hundreds of restaurants himself. So in 1935, he made a deal. He let another businessman open a restaurant, use the Howard Johnson's name, follow his strict rules, and pay him a fee. It worked. He did it again and again. Howard Johnson's became one of the very first great franchise empires in American history, decades before McDonald's ever flipped a burger. By the end of 1940, there were already roughly 130 Howard Johnson's restaurants spreading across the East Coast. And the third brilliant thing was the road itself. Johnson understood, earlier than almost anyone, that the future of America was the automobile. He hunted for locations where his buildings could be seen from a long distance, and he gave them that unmistakable orange roof and colonial-style design so that a driver going 50 miles an hour would know, in an instant, what was coming up. He won the exclusive rights to run the restaurants along the new turnpikes and highways, and he made the whole experience welcoming for families with children's menus and a birthday club that mailed kids a card good for a free meal and a contest that gave you a free cone if you could prove you had tried all 28 flavors. For a whole generation of American children, that orange roof did not mean a restaurant. It meant the vacation had begun. By the 1950s, Howard Johnson had ridden the great post-war boom to the very top. As millions of American families took to the new highways for summer vacations, Howard Johnson's was waiting for them at every stop. In 1953, the company added another piece to the empire. Howard Johnson's Motor Lodges, clean and reliable motels that let a family eat and sleep under the same trusted name. Through the 1960s, Howard Johnson's became the single largest restaurant chain in the United States, bigger than any name you could think of. At its height, the company operated more than 1,000 restaurants and over 500 motor lodges. It was, quite simply, the largest hospitality company in America, the host of the highways, for decades from the outside. It truly looked as though that orange roof would stand beside every road in America forever. But the man who built it was getting older. Howard Deering Johnson stepped back from running the company at the end of the 1950s, handing the reins to his son, Howard Brennan Johnson, known to everyone as Bud. And in 1972, the founder passed away. Bud was a different kind of man than his father. He had a Harvard business degree, and he looked at the company the way a numbers man looks at a spreadsheet. And what the numbers told him worried him, because a new kind of competitor had appeared on the American road, one that his father's expensive, high-quality empire was not built to fight. And to win that fight, Bud would make a decision that started to unravel everything. The fall of Howard Johnson's was not a single event. It was a series of forces closing in at once, and each one made the others worse. The first force was fast food. In the 1960s and 70s, a wave of new chains, McDonald's, Burger King, Kentucky Fried Chicken, swept across the country, and they had cracked a formula that Howard Johnson's could not match. Small menus, rock-bottom prices, lightning-fast service. Howard Johnson's was a full sit-down restaurant with a large menu and high-quality food, which meant it was slower and more expensive. To a young family in a hurry with a few dollars to spend, the cheaper, faster option next door began to look awfully tempting. The second force was the price of gasoline. Remember, the entire empire was built on one thing: Americans driving down highways. Then came the oil crisis of 1974. Suddenly, gas was scarce and expensive, and fewer people were taking those long family road trips. The lifeblood of the business slowed to a trickle. And here Bud made a costly mistake. He panicked. He slammed the brakes on the company's growth and stopped all expansion entirely. As he himself later admitted, once you stop a growing company in its tracks, it is enormously hard to ever get it moving again. The third force was the one that did the deepest damage, and it came from inside. To compete with those cheap fast food prices, Bud went hunting for costs to cut. He noticed the company was spending far more of its money on the actual food than its rivals were. So he cut. He cut the food budget, replacing quality ingredients with cheaper ones. He cut staff. He cut the marketing. And, fatally, he cut the supervision budget, the very system his father had built to make sure every single restaurant kept up its standards. And that decision leads us to the heart of this whole story: the fatal mistake. Think about what Howard Johnson's actually was. It was not really selling fried clams or ice cream. It was selling a promise. The promise that no matter where you were, no matter how far from home, you could pull off the highway under that orange roof and get a good, hot, familiar meal exactly the same, every single time. That reliability was the entire product. It was why families chose it. The founder understood this so deeply that he once had a man arrested over an expiration date, and his son, to save a few cents on a plate, quietly took that promise apart. When you cut the food quality, and cut the staff, and cut the very inspectors who guaranteed consistency, you get exactly what you would expect. The food got worse. The service got slower and sloppier. The aging orange roof buildings started to look tired and shabby, and many franchise owners refused to spend the money to fix them up. And travelers noticed. Fast, the name that had meant dependability for 40 years, began, instead, to mean disappointment. People started to describe Howard Johnson's as cheap and run down. And here is the cruel logic of it. Once that orange roof no longer promised a good meal you could count on, there was no longer any reason on earth to choose it over the cheaper, faster place right next door. And Bud Johnson seems to have known the magic was gone. Because in 1979, rather than fight to save what his father had built, he decided to get out. He sold the entire Howard Johnson's empire, more than 1,000 restaurants, and over 500 motor lodges to a company all the way across the ocean. The Imperial Group of London, a British conglomerate that had made its name in the tobacco business. The price was $630 million, a fortune at the time. A company born from one American's fanatical obsession with quality was now in the hands of distant owners who had never understood what made it special in the first place. And the lesson in that moment is a hard one. When you sell off your good name to save a little money, eventually you find you have nothing left worth selling. And that is exactly how it played out. The new British owners tried, for 6 years, to revive the fading chain, pouring in money and new ideas. Almost none of it worked. The decline that Bud had started only continued. And so, in 1985, the Imperial Group gave up. It sold Howard Johnson's to the Marriott Corporation for just $314 million, roughly half of what it had paid only 6 years earlier. But Marriott did not buy Howard Johnson's to save it. Marriott had ambitions of its own in the hotel and restaurant world, and it had little interest in the tired old orange roof name, so it began carving up the empire. Many of the restaurants were simply closed or converted into Marriott's own brands. The motor lodges were sold off to yet another company. By this point, out of a chain that once had well over 1,000 restaurants, only about 174 remained. From there, the great orange roof empire slowly faded away, decade by decade, location by location. The restaurants that once lined every major highway in America grew fewer and fewer, until they became a rare and nostalgic sight, and then almost none at all. Today, the Howard Johnson's name has not vanished completely. It survives as a budget hotel brand, part of a much larger hotel company, with a few hundred inns still carrying the name around the world. But the restaurants, the fried clams, the 28 flavors, the birthday clubs, the orange roof full of families on their way to the beach, those are gone. And in 2022, the story reached its quiet, final chapter, when the very last Howard Johnson's restaurant, in the town of Lake George, New York, served its last meal and closed for good. From a single drugstore to more than 1,000 restaurants, and all the way back down to zero, the whole rise and fall unfolded inside the span of one man's lifetime. So what do we take from all of this? There are business lessons here about failing to keep up with the times, and about the danger of cutting costs in a panic. But for me, the lesson that stays is a simpler, more human one. Howard Johnson built his empire on a single beautiful promise. Good food, nicely served, exactly the same every time. It made millions of families feel safe and cared for out on the open road. And that promise, built patiently over decades, was quietly dismantled to save a few pennies a plate, until there was no promise left, and therefore no reason to stop. Howard Johnson's did not fall because Americans stopped taking road trips. It fell because the people who inherited that orange roof forgot what the orange roof was actually for, because that is the truth these stories keep teaching us. The thing that makes a company great is almost always the thing that costs the most and the easiest thing in the world to quietly cut away. Now I would love to hear from you. Do you remember Howard Johnson's? Did you ever try to eat your way through all 28 flavors? Where were you headed when you spotted that orange roof up ahead? Leave a comment below and share your memory. And if this story moved you, take a moment to subscribe, because here on this channel, we tell these stories one at a time. After all, every empire has its rise, and every rise has its fall.